This is a very important practice to get into. Don't underrate it. Most people do. They underrate the value of doing this. All we need to do and all we really need to focus on is what one little thing can I do today that's going to get me one step closer to my dream, my goal. I've heard of intuition like this. When we pray, we're speaking to God. Intuition is God speaking to us.
This is not the episode you want to share, nor to watch. It's dangerous. Back in 2020, I was stuck in the world's most infected city by the biggest pandemic ever, Guangzhou, China. Literally stuck. In my friend's apartment, spending over 6 months with only one single hoodie and a pair of pants. My business went down to zero and my sales as well, not due to lack of demand, but due to physical inability to make delivery of the goods. I was sitting one night on the floor and I was thinking, what should I do? I started watching YouTube videos because this was the way to escape my thoughts. I binged the videos and stood on one from the guy named Bob Proctor. He said something which deeply resonates with me. If you can see it in your head, you can own it in your hand. Unfortunately, I never had a chance to meet him nor to speak to him, but I had a chance to speak with his son, Brian Proctor. Entire episode, I was holding tears in my eyes. He was in his father's office with a beautiful background full of bookshelves, and I swear I could feel like Bob was in there. So if you're watching this, pay attention, seriously, because this episode has the power to break you open, and I mean it in best possible way. My name is Nick Graz, this is NGrS Show, and today my guest is Brian Proctor.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here with you. Thank you very much.
Brian, I must tell you that for me, this is probably one of the most important episodes because I can now recall all the times when I was listening to videos of your father and listening to his materials and courses and seeing you sitting right there behind you, all of these books who are remarkable background of Bob. And I'm so happy to speak today with you on all the topics about law of attraction, your father, your business, your books, and everything else.
Thank you, Nick. You know, it's this timing worked out so great for this podcast with you. I just flew into Toronto literally 2 days ago, and this is always a special place for me. I get to sit in my father's studio at his desk to do this, and I will say this place has a very special feel to it. My father loved his studio, and he spent a lot of time out here. So it's really nice to be sitting here to do this with you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. You grew up with one of the most influential people when it comes to personal development, Bob Proctor. My first question to you is how it was growing up to such a big person like Bob is.
I'm sorry, Nick. The internet was cutting out. I did not
Okay,
hear any of that question.
I'll repeat the question. Okay, so you grow up with one of the most influential people in the planet when it comes to mindset and law of attraction, such as Bob Proctor. And I want to ask you how it was growing up with him and how
Mhm.
it was your childhood.
Well, I mean, for me, he was my father. So he was dad to me. When I was a young boy, I never had any idea of who Bob Proctor was other than dad. He was a great father. He was always present. I count myself very fortunate. I had a great childhood. I had great both my parents are fabulous. Um, I had a very special relationship with my dad. I got to work with him for well over 30 years, and just growing up with him was I count myself very lucky. I got to go on the road with him when he was doing seminars as a young boy. I got to see and meet a lot of influential people. I got to experience what he did for a living. And to me, that was normal. I just grew up in it. But, I just count myself as fortunate. I think I've lived a charmed life because of what I learned having Bob Proctor as a father. I often laugh, Nick. I think Dad was given the book Think and Grow Rich in October of 1961, and that's what started his journey. Well, I was born in December of 1961. So I was there for the entire ride, and I often think he was altering his mind. He was learning all about the mind and what we're capable of. And as he was learning that, he was actually programming my mind. I almost look at myself like I was maybe an experiment with him. And so I was really taught some of the best material from one of the experts in the business, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's a very powerful thing to know, and it's interesting your perspective that for all your childhood until you was to some point of age where you can really work with him, he was just your father.
That's
And
right.
this is the great thing. I found out in one of your previous interviews, you used to say that your father used to have some kind of like ritual putting you in the bed with putting his hand on your chest
Mhm.
and calming you down so that he can make you being grateful for all the good things you achieved. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's actually one of my fondest memories of Dad from when I was a young boy. Um, Obviously, as you can imagine, when he was first starting his business, when I was a young boy, he was on the road a fair bit. He was doing seminars all over the place. He traveled. I think he was on the road more than 300 days of the year. But he was always coming back home, and then he'd go somewhere else. Whenever he was home, he would be the one that would tuck me into bed at night, and it's probably one of my earliest memories of him. And I can remember climbing into bed as a really young boy and laying there waiting for Dad. And he'd come up and he would sit on the side of the bed and he would put his hand on my chest. And he told me later, he said that was just to form that physical connection. He says energy can be felt. So he would put his hand on my chest and he would start to talk to me about my day. And he would ask me about all the good things that were happening in my day. And he would have me look for the good in all everything. Well, then if I was having struggles with something or something bad happened that day, we would talk about it. And he would have me look for the good that came out of it. Even if it was something bad, he would have me try to focus on the good because of it. And it was just a great thing to learn as a young boy, as a mindset thing. We all have bad things happen to us. However, if we look for the good from it, and harvest the lesson from it, whatever that may be, we can use it to our advantage. And that's really what he taught me. He taught me to look for the good, even in the bad. Then the thing that really set it off is when we were done, he would have his hand here and he would say to me, he says, Brian, you are capable of being, doing, or having anything you want in your life. You're going to have a great sleep tonight. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to have a big smile on your face and you're going to have a wonderful day. And that was my first real solid, vivid memory of my father. It was those things every night tucking me into bed. And what he did, I think, not only for my self-image, but making me feel seen, making me feel heard, making me feel important, it was really special. And it's a great memory. The best part, Nick, was I got to do that with my kids. When I had two children, I started doing that with them. And I'll never forget, I was actually here in this studio telling this story to somebody, and my son was in the control room and he came running out and he says, Dad, I remember that. You called them dream packs. And I didn't know if the kids would fully remember it or not, but he remembers that. I now have grandchildren and I see my daughter doing this with my grandchildren. So what Dad started, he's changing generations with this way of looking at life, this way of treating our young people. And I know that he built my self-image and my way of looking at things simply by the way he tucked me into bed at night. And I think anybody that has young children or grandchildren, you start doing this, you will alter those children's lives. Now, I have one little further story, Nick, if I can, if you don't mind if I share. It's
Absolutely, it will be a
I,
pleasure.
I was doing all right. I was doing a podcast with this gentleman. I won't say his name just for privacy reasons, but he's got a very, very large audience. Really, just the kindest man. I really enjoyed talking with him. And I told him this story. Well, he loved the story. And he says, I have a 16-year-old son. He says, I'm not quite sure how that would work with a 16-year-old. And I said, well, you never know until you try. And he invited me back to his podcast about 3 months later. And we were chatting before he started to record. And he was talking about this. And he says to me, he says, Brian, this was one of the best lessons I ever learned. He said, and I've been in this business for most of my life. He said, I started to do this with my son, and he's 16. He said, I'd go upstairs, I'd sit on his bed when he was going to sleep. And he says, it was kind of awkward. And he says, I just kind of put my hand on his leg. And I started to talk to him like this. And he said, my son even felt a little awkward at first. And he says, it was a little funny. But he says it within a few days, his son was looking forward to those moments that they had before he went to sleep. And he said, I have changed the way I look at things, and I know I've changed the way my son looks at things at 16. And what an important time of life that is. And he says, this is not something that has to be only with young children. You can do it with anybody. It's based on the intention of how you're doing it and why you're doing it. And he said it's changed his relationship with his son in one of the kindest, most impactful ways that he's ever experienced. And that was really nice to hear.
It's very nice, and thank you for sharing that story. My son is 8. We are having a little bit similar thing which we are doing because my son usually before he goes to sleep, because he's just 8, he likes to hug my
Hmm.
arm, and then that's how
Hmm.
he calmed down himself. So far, I was never using something to teach him or to tell to him or to pre-frame him how it would be when he wakes up, but I'll definitely implement this from you and your father, and I will inform you later on how this goes.
I would love
Uh,
to hear that.
you know, I told you before we started to record, one more thing which is very interesting from your teenage days is
Hmm.
actually your mom described that in the book. And I remember myself driving on the north part of Tenerife, where I live, and I was listening to your mom's book. And in the second chapter, she's saying a story of you being teenager, taking father's car and making a little trouble. I would like to you tell us that story and to tell us uh, how you felt, how you felt having and being into that trouble, telling to your father what actually happened, and what's most important, the way how your father reacted.
Yeah, you know what, Nick? That was it's kind of a bit of a cool memory. Um, I was 16, and as you can imagine, my father was on the road a fair bit. Well, every time he was out of town, he would give me his car, and I could use his car to do whatever I wanted. He never worried about it. And this car was, in my eyes, it was a special car. It was a 1976 convertible Cadillac Eldorado. Apparently, it was the last year that Cadillac was making a convertible, and Dad did everything he could to get that car. It was a fairly hard car to get at the time, and he had this car, and he was really proud of it. And I look at it in the car world. That was my first love in cars. That was the car I learned how to drive in. And anytime he was out of town, I had this car. Well, I was running late for an exam I had at high school, and I was driving a little too fast, and I was coming around a bend. I was looking for a parking spot, and I wasn't paying attention to in front of me, and the light was red, car was stopped, and I didn't see it until it was too late, and I hit the car. And I did some pretty big damage, both to the car in front of me and to my father's car. Well, I'll never forget, I jumped out, and the first thing, the lady in the car in front of me, she jumped out and she was crying. I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? And all she did was ask me, are you okay? And she hugged me. It was the nicest reaction, not what I was expecting. And that went all well. Well, then I was quite worried about what my father was going to say. I thought, oh, this special car that he has, and I wrecked it, and it was going to require some pretty heavy body repair. And he was on the road, and I was just terrified of letting him know that I wrecked his car. And obviously, as a young kid, 16, you dream up all kinds of stuff. And I had lots of anxiety around it. And I remember getting on the phone with him and I was nervous. I was probably crying. I was in a bit of a panic about telling him. I will never forget his response, Nick. All I heard was this calm voice. And he said to me, he says, Brian, you're okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. He says, that's all that matters, as long as you're okay. He said, the car is a piece of tin. He says, it can be fixed and we'll be fine again. And that was it. That was his response to me. It was so kind. And he lifted that weight of guilt that I had around the mistake case. And he said to me, he says, an accident is called an accident just for that reason. It's an accident. It's not like you meant for it to happen. And I'll never forget, Nick. He had the car fixed, and the next time he went out of town, he gave me the car again. And he gave it to me without a lecture, without anything. It was just such a great way of being. Well, I was actually in Florida at a seminar, and I was telling this story, and it was probably almost 30 years later. And I was telling this story to the crowd. And that evening, after I told that story, I went to where I was staying and I got a phone call, and it was my son. And I had left him my car while I was out of town, and he wrecked it, and he was terrified. I will never forget. It was almost word for word. I said to him the same thing that my father said to me 30 years previously. I said to him, I said, Danny, it's just a piece of tin. Don't worry about it. We can get it fixed. And I thought, wow, how that lesson stuck with me that I was able to use it with my son almost 30 years later. And again, lift that weight off of him that as long as he was fine, that's all that really mattered. What a great way to be. I see so many people that have nice cars and they're worried for somebody to even touch it sometimes, let alone take it out and drive it and get it in a wreck. And he never attached to items like that. He always felt a car is a piece of tin, it can be fixed. Doesn't matter what it is. And that's a special way to look at life. What's really important? And that's that his focus was always on what was really important.
Yeah, and nowadays I believe that it's very hard to focus on things. We are very distractful and we are distracted by everything daily. The way of informations we are receiving from social media and from internet, it's like out of this any scales. So what I want to ask you is, uh, have Bob been always that kind and calm with his own peace of mind? Or you could see him sometimes being worried, trying to overcome some his own anxiety about some problems and daily lifestyles?
Oh, sure. I mean, he was always kind and he always came from a good place. It's not to say that he never faced adversity, because he did. He was building a business in the personal development field long before the internet and all of this that we have today. So you can imagine how tough of a business that would have been. It was in the days that you had to go knocking on doors to find people to attend seminars. It was not an easy thing to sell. Today, you can just post things on the web and you can do all kinds of stuff. But back then, it was a struggle. And so, yes, I saw him face adversities. And I think what was really interesting, Nick, was that he always shared those adversities with me. And I think he shared them with me so that I'd see what he was doing. And it was a lesson for me to watch. He never preached at me that you have to do this or you have to do it this way. He would share what he was going through so that I would see that he was facing his adversities and how he was doing it. What a great way to learn. And yes, I saw him at times where he would try to put on a seminar. He rented a room with, maybe 1,000 seats, and 20 people would show up. What would he do? He got up on the stage and he taught as if the room was full. He did whatever he could with what he had. He never let his current circumstance, he never let the current environment dictate how he was going to be. And yes, he faced adversity. And I can remember one of his big sayings was, it is what it is. If something bad happened, he would just say, well, it is what it is. Let's look for the good in it and let's keep on moving forward. That was how he acted, and that's how he treated people. And it was a great lesson for me to learn because we will all face adversity. None of us are immune from adversity. Adversity is going to happen at some point. How we respond to it, boy, that's everything. And if we can respond to it in a positive way, think, well, that is what it is. What's the best I can take from this? And where can I go now? And start treating life that way. The things that happen to us that are not good, they won't cut as deep and they won't harm us as much because we're looking for the good and we're going to carry on through it. And it's a great way to be. That's really something I learned from him, watching him and seeing him experience.
That's a very, very important mindset, way of looking at the things, always looking in something good, however bad it is, because this is something probably would keep the driving force of moving forward and overcoming it. My next question to you is, what was the biggest mindset shift you had to make to step into your own success beyond your father's legacy?
Well, here's a question I've never been asked before, Nick. I will tell you the biggest mindset thing for me, it would have been after my father passed away. I was always behind the scenes. I dealt with the marketing area, and I was always behind the scenes. It was my father that was the face that was on podcasts, that was on stage speaking, that was doing interviews. It was never me. And one of the last lessons that I learned from my father was literally within the last 2 weeks of his life. I was here in Toronto. I spent probably close to the last 6 months, mostly here in Toronto with dad by his side when he was not doing well. And I would sit in the hospital room with him for hours, and we would just hold hands and we would talk, and he'd fall asleep and he'd wake back up. Well, what he taught me was around intuition. And he said to me, he said, Brian, keep talking to me every day and listen for the answers. Those answers are your intuition. Follow your intuition. Let it guide you. That was something that has altered my life. So you want to talk about a mindset. Most of us, we listen to our intuition and then our paradigms kick in saying, oh, who are you to think you could do that? You shouldn't be doing that. And we talk ourselves out of what our intuition tells us. Sometimes our intuition tells us not to do something, but we do it because, oh, it sounds like such a good deal. This person has sold us on what a great thing this is. And we know it wasn't the right thing to do. And it always comes back to bite us. And we think, oh, if I had only listened to myself. And other times we get intuition to do something, we don't do it. We think, oh gosh, if only I had done that. Dad taught me to listen to my intuition and follow it perfectly. Since his passing, I have done that, Nick, to a T. And I will say it's not easy. There's many times where following my intuition has taken me way out of my comfort zone, has been very uncomfortable, but I have listened to it and followed it because of the way he taught it to me. By doing that, my life over the last 3 years has changed so dramatically. And it is a mindset thing. If we can learn to listen to our intuition and truly follow it, your life will never be the same. I've heard of intuition like this. When we pray, we're speaking to God. Intuition is God speaking to us. Problem is, we don't listen to it often enough. And if we can truly listen to that and let out the clutter, our life will be different. That's a mindset thing that I learned from dad at the end that I think was probably the most valuable lesson he ever taught me. And is it an easy thing to do? Yes and no. I think we need to go into a quiet place and ask questions. Where do I want to go? How do I want to be? What do I really want to do? And then we have to listen to that. But more importantly, we have to take action to that and don't let those little people on your shoulders tell you otherwise. Follow it. That's the key. And that takes a strong mindset. That's for sure.
I can fully resonate with that because since 2018, I'm fully into online sales and entrepreneurship. And I used to say to my wife that I feel daily somebody whispering in my ear and telling me, don't do this, do that. You can't do that. You're not capable of who you are. And I said that probably the whole entrepreneurship journey, it's about uncertainty. Probably I'm not certain about how do I really want it to be or how it will be the outcome. But if I follow that intuition, my inner calling, I may align with that. Maybe not 100%, but somewhere along the road, it will be parallel thing. So I want to ask you now a question which I usually ask people who are deep into the mindset, and this is what separates those who truly appeal to be successful from those ones who fail down that road and never stood up again?
Well, I mean, the difference is mindset. The difference is persistence. The difference is an inner knowing that you are willing to step out and do whatever is required. You know, a statement my father said often was, a pro is at their best regardless. If you can be at your best, regardless of what's going on around you, regardless of the negative nonsense, you talk about social media and everything, we're being bombarded with crazy stuff today, all kinds of negative stuff. If we can be the best version of ourselves every single day, no matter what's going on, our life will be different. And yes, not everything works out. There's lots of times that we're going to fail at something. But if we have the mental fortitude to stand up, shake it off, and keep going forward and keep being that best version of you, your life will never be the same. That's it. Now, the one big thing that I learned, and it's something I wrote in my latest book, 12 Easy Steps to Success, or to change your life, is this. All we need to do and all we really need to focus on is what one little thing can I do today that's going to get me one step closer to my dream, my goal, my business, whatever that may be. You know, if we only did one little thing, that's when the differences are made. So many of us are looking for that big thing to happen, the big change before they get there. And if we focus on what one little thing can I do today, don't worry about the big thing. What little thing can I do? And the next day, what one little thing can I do today? You know, in a year's time, you've done 365 little things. I promise you, that's going to add up to something big. That's when the big things happen. And if we can get in the habit of doing that every day, no matter what's going on, no matter what failures, no matter what negative stuff we got coming on, we keep standing up, be that best version of ourselves. And what one little thing can I do to move forward? Your life will never be the same. It might not happen in a week. Things might not change in a month, but I promise you, a year down the road, things will change. And you'll wonder what happened. Where did it switch? And it switched because you took care of the little things and you stayed focused on what you want and you didn't let the defeats take you down.
Hey, you. This isn't for you if you want to get just better at sales. This is for people who want to truly dominate it. Either it's DMs, calls, webinars, keynote speaking presentations, or any other form, Instagram or Facebook stories as well. The game has changed. AI, it's just around the corner. So if you're relying on old sales scripts, old sales pitches, or if you're relying to learn sales from the old books written even 2 or 3 years ago, to not even speak about 10 or 20 or 30 years ago bestsellers, you're losing the game. Your sales will not perform on the best way. See, this is why I created this community. To give you unfair sales advantage in every format, every tool, for every buyer. Cold DMs, sales calls, sales pitches, understanding the sales pitches, breaking down sales objection, and everything else what you need to understand when it comes to different tonalities and sales psychology so that you understand how to better perform your sales. This isn't another Slack, WhatsApp, or Telegram group. This is a community of people who want to become not just better at sales, sales dominators. It's free, and you can join it just by clicking the link below in the description of this video. Very powerful lesson, and thank you for sharing this here with us. When we speak about such a things, and you mentioned paradigm, I know that your father was speaking for years that people do not understand the power of law of attraction, and that people mostly misunderstand it with some kind of like technique which doesn't work, or with something where they lie to themselves. Can you a little bit better explain from the first hand, being Bob's son, how law of attraction actually works and how
Yep.
can we implement it in the daily life?
Sure. The law of attraction really is quite simple. It's an age-old thing. You know, what you think about, you bring about. what you focus on, that's what you will bring into your life. Here's the problem, and this is what most people are doing. Most people are wishing for what they want, but they're thinking, that'll never happen. I'll never get there. Who am I to think I could have this? So their energy is on, oh, it'll never happen. They're wishing for this thing, but they're thinking I can never get there. Well, the law of attraction is going to serve up on a platter to you your predominant thought. What are you thinking about most? Are you thinking about your just wish, but most of the time you're thinking it's not going to happen? If that's what you're thinking, it's not going to happen. You are attracting that into your life. That's the law of attraction. If you think of something that you really want and you give it energy, even if it's crazy, but you have this, I like to call it a pleasant obsession. You're always thinking about it. It's always on your mind. It's in your heart. You're feeling it. You know you're going to get there. You don't know how, but you know you're going to get there. And because you have a pleasant obsession, you're always thinking about what it is you want. You're not thinking about how it's not going to happen. I'm not going to say that won't come into your thoughts, but you'll know right away to kick that out because that's not serving you. What do I want? And are you living from that place? Are you thinking, this is going to happen to me? Now, here's the important part. If you have a pleasant obsession for what it is you do want, and that's all you're thinking about, you're going to start to do things in a day that you might not have ever done before. That's the difference. Most people think that if all I do is think about this, think about this, think about this, it'll come. Well, you also have to take some action. You've got to step out and do something to bring that to you. And if you are pleasantly obsessed with whatever that is, you will step out and start to do things in a day that you would have never done before. It might be uncomfortable, it might be awkward, but you're going to keep doing it because you are pleasantly obsessed with what you want in your life. That is when you harness the law of attraction and really make it a force. When you can do that, you will bring anything into your life. It requires thought, but it does require action as well. But we have to really be careful about where our mind is going. Are we just wishing for a thing and thinking it will never happen? Because then that will never happen. Or are we pleasantly obsessed with what we want? That's all we think about. And we know, you have to know that it is going to come to you. And you step out and do those uncomfortable things in a day that you wouldn't normally do. But because you're pleasantly obsessed, you do. That's how you harness that. And that's how you bring these things into your life. That's the easiest way I can explain it. I hope that helps.
This helps a lot, but there is one thing which is very interesting, and this is that Rhonda Byrne, the author of book The Secret, which later on turned into the movie, she's describing that she, using law of attraction, attracted Bob into her life. Moreover,
Yes.
on the other side, something what not so many people know is that Bob have been thinking that he, by his law of attraction, attracted
Mhm.
Rhonda in his life. And can you please a little bit communicate with me on that point and how this actually have happened?
It's a really great story. And this is a story that really exemplifies what the law of attraction is all about. So Rhonda was doing filming for the movie The Secret. And she had been trying to reach my father. She wanted him to be in the movie because she knew that he was one of the predominant people in that world, that really teach the material. But she wasn't able to get a hold of my father. Here's the thing. She always held the vision that he would be there. And she stepped out and she kept taking action. She was filming, she was doing whatever was required to make that movie come to being. And she just kept reaching out to him, kept doing whatever was required. That's all that it takes. And she was holding the vision that he would be there. Now, my father, on the other hand, was holding the vision that something was going to happen that would propel him to a much larger stage. He didn't know what that was going to be, but he knew that if he just kept doing the work, kept saying yes to opportunities, that would happen. It's very similar to you reaching out to me, Nick. I have no idea if your audience is large, is small. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. you could be the vehicle that could make a difference for me. You never know. So what happened was my father would always say yes to everybody, yes to anybody that was willing to help him get his message out. So he had a message on his phone, and it was from Rhonda Byrne's sister in Australia, trying to reach Dad, but he couldn't quite hear it. And he had Gina, his assistant, go through his messages on his phone and reach out. And she said that she would take care of it. Well, Gina calls up my father and says, "Well, I did reach out and I found them. And yes, they want you in this movie that they're filming, The Secret. But they are doing the final cut, the final filming this coming weekend in Aspen, Colorado." And 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 the odd thing was, Dad was going to be in Aspen, Colorado that weekend. He was doing a seminar there. He had only ever done a seminar there one other time. So it's not a place that he went to regularly. And they were filming literally across the street from where he was doing the seminar. I mean, you can't make that stuff up. So Dad says, "Well, I'm there. So yes, of course, I'll do it." He had no idea what the secret was going to be. He just knew that somebody wanted him in the film. And he knew that that could be the potential thing that would make the difference. So they set it up. He was doing his seminar. He literally at lunchtime walked across the street, filmed with Rhonda for an hour, and walked back across the street. The rest is history. You know, when that movie came out, Dad was 72 years old, Nick. 72. He had been working in the industry for 40 years. He was very well known in the industry, but he was not known globally. That movie changed his life. Because of that, he was got onto Larry King Live, he got on Ellen DeGeneres, Nightline. He was open to the world. And that was the thing that made the difference. He attracted that into his life because all he was focused on was how could he deliver his message. And he would say yes to anybody that was willing to ask. And that's it. That's it. He took action. He had a pleasant obsession that he knew he would get there, but he took action every day. And these things will happen for you if you're open to the good that you desire and you actively do whatever you can do to make it happen in your life. That opportunity would have still been there. But if he didn't follow up with that call, if he didn't do whatever that was, he would have missed it. And we all have opportunities that are around us all the time, some that are right in front of us that we don't see because we're not open to it. If we stay open to the good that we desire and keep doing the good that we can do in the world, we will recognize these opportunities when they arrive and we'll take action on them. That is how you bring these things into your life. So in that instance, Rhonda got my father in the movie, which she wanted. Dad got into the movie that created what he wanted. He didn't know that that was going to be the vehicle, but it was. That is it's such a beautiful example of the law of attraction that in a movie that was about it, you couldn't ask for a better setup than that.
This is unbelievable story. I first time hear it right now. I heard parts of that story before, and it's unbelievable to know that this was the only time he was in that place, Austin, Colorado, right?
Yeah.
It's wow, like literally life-changing opportunity which triggered all and everything afterwards.
Exactly, exactly. And it's just, it's such a great lesson. We just have to be open to these things. And you have to be willing to say yes. Say yes to things that could potentially get you to where you want and not have any attachment to it. Do you know, he never got paid to be in The Secret. They weren't paying anybody to be there. He was there on his own accord because he was delivering his message and he knew he could help people. That was it. He was coming from here. He was coming from the heart. If we can do everything we do from the heart, from a good place, and just do it from that, you have no idea the good that you can attract into your life. And that was my father to a T.
This is really magnificent story. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Yeah.
Your father often spoke about repetition and programming subconscious mind. And I want to ask you how you understand this, working with him for over 30 years, and what would be your advice about now self-programming our subconscious mind?
That's an easy one for me to answer, Nick. Something that Dad did is every day at, between 5 and 6 a.m., he would come out here to the studio and he would open up. I'll get mine out for you here. He would open up his journal. He had a journal, and I've got one here with me that I have with me everywhere I go. Not that you need to see this, but I have this, and this is the same. It's a Smithson or Smyson. It's just a great writing pad. What he would do is he would come out here every day and he would write out his goal. He had a goal, what he was doing, what he was, his big dream. And he would write it out every day. And he did it with a handwriting, didn't type it. Handwriting, writing creates thinking. It causes thought patterns. So every morning, the first thing he did was he would write out his goal. And then he would sit back and he'd close his mind and he would just picture himself with it. That was, it's such a simple thing to do. Most people don't do it. That's a habit I've gotten into doing. What that does is it gets you focused on what you're doing, why you're doing it, what is your want, what is your pleasant obsession, and it gets you focused on it right away. That writing, that repetition, he says, you want to change anything, it requires repetition. You just got to keep doing it, keep doing it. Even if your goal is outrageous and maybe seem unreal, you keep doing that. Before long, it won't seem so outrageous. Before long, it will start to think, this is possible. And then that possibility will become a probability. And then eventually it will become an actual thing. And that is just through repetition. You have to get comfortable with the crazy dreams, the what is it that you want in your life? Write it out every single day and focus on it. That will cause you, as I said earlier, to step out and start doing things in a day because your focus is different. It's how you start your day. And that can be done for chasing a goal. It can be done for our self-image. If we'd like to show up differently in the world, we can write that out. How do we want ourselves to show up in the world? How do I want to present myself? How do I want to show the world who I am? If that's not how I have been, start writing out whatever that is. Write it in a positive phrase and write it in the present tense like you're already there. You do that every single day. That repetition will slowly alter the way you see yourself and the way you start to present yourself. And that's really it. Repetition will change anything. He often said that if we told ourselves a lie often enough, we'd start to believe it as a truth. And that's really all it is. If we write out how we want to be or what we would like and just keep doing it every single day, we alter through that repetition the way we see ourselves, but more importantly, we alter the way we act. And when we can alter the way we act, we will alter the results that we get in our life. That's it.
Something like a vision board.
Yeah, I love vision boards. Love vision
Yeah.
boards. Yes. I have a vision board in my office. It's right across my desk. I see every day. And I have it framed in a really nice frame. So it looks like a piece of art. And it has all my dreams. It has my big goal on there, but it also has other dreams of other things I'd like. And yes, you get to look at it every day. It's the repetition of seeing it. And it gets you comfortable with crazy dreams sometimes. It makes them seem like, okay, this is normal. And before long, you're living it. It's a great way to live and act.
Do you stuff your vision board with the pictures or with the written words?
A bit of both. A bit of both.
That's
It's
interesting.
mostly pictures. It's mostly pictures, but there are some words on it as well.
That's very interesting. Uh, I want to ask you a question where uh, your father have been well known about so many of these techniques like law of attraction, law of vibration and stuffs. But is there any which people today don't know very well or they are not being spreaded that well, which you know? Is there any of techniques which is kind of underrated and your father have been following it?
Well, I think one of the most underrated activities would be wrapped around gratitude. Dad always liked to talk about writing out what you're grateful for every day, and that's another thing that he did. He would have a gratitude journal. He would write out what he was grateful for every day. It's a great habit to get into. It's something I've done for a very long time. You know, it's easy to feel grateful when you have good things happening to you, when good things are going on in your life. It's maybe not so easy to feel grateful when, the proverbial nonsense is hitting the fan, that things aren't going well for you, that is when it's really important. And that is a lesson that I learned from him that really has altered a lot of things I know for me. And it's something that I've been teaching to people that I know it's been altering for them. I look at it as the foundation to success. If we were to take some time every day, Nick, and just write out what you're grateful for, it could be bullet points, a list of 10 things, what are you grateful for? Or write out, I personally like to write it like a journal in paragraphs. And I write all the things I'm grateful for. Some days it can be a little difficult. It might be simply, I'm grateful for this cup of coffee. I mean, it could be anything, but when you start to shift your focus with action and actual writing, because I said earlier, writing causes thinking. And you start to actually write out, what am I grateful for? What is good in my life? Like today, it was easy. I am grateful to be here in my father's studio. I can feel his presence. I'm grateful to be here with my stepmother and enjoying her company. With my wife, I got to see my grandkids yesterday. It's easy for me today. But there's other days, when things aren't going quite right. If we can take those days and start thinking, okay, what am I grateful for? And start writing that down. What that does, it gets you in harmony with the good in the world. It gets you focused on what's good. When you can start to see the good, even when it's nonsense flying around you, you will see better. You will attract better things into your life, and it puts you in the harmony with the good that you desire. You know, there's a quote on the back. Wasn't expecting to bring these out, but so I've got this gratitude journal that I write in.
Wow.
On the back of the gratitude journal is a quote, and I'd like to share this with you, Nick, if that's okay, because this quote says it all. It's by Wallace D. Wattles. He is the author of The Science of Getting Rich. And just as another little tidbit of information, it's the book, The Science of Getting Rich, that's what started the whole thinking for Rhonda Byrne. That's where the secret came from, was based out of the book, The Science of Getting Rich. Anyways, this is what Wallace D. Wattles says. He said, the grateful mind is constantly fixed upon the best. Therefore, it tends to become the best. It takes the form or character of the best and will receive the best. That is an action that I learned from Dad a long time ago. I think it's very underrated. I think a lot of people have heard about gratitude journals and they just kind of fluff it off and they don't actually practice it. If you get focused on what you're grateful for, even when times are not good, you will see the good that's around you and you will attract more good into your life. That can alter your life more than just about anything because it puts you in a good state of mind. And you want to attract good things into your life, you've got to be in a really good state of mind. When you're in a grateful state of mind, people will want to deal with you. They're going to want to work with you. Opportunities will be there in front of you because you're in a grateful state of mind. We don't let the news, we don't let the social media nonsense, we don't let that dictate how we think. We think from a place of gratitude and what am I grateful for? And we can be grateful no matter where we're at. When we do that, we will we will attract a lot of good into our life.
Yeah, and I just want to add up one small insight on that, which I wrote here. And this is that you in your book says that daily practice of gratitude helps you to reach a depth within that brings deep meaning to your life. That's actually a very powerful quote. I
Mhm.
never heard of it before I found it in your book. And it's a great one. It's really important for us to find gratefulness on every single step of our life happening. And I'm so thankful that you shared that all these things. Um, when it comes to grateful journal, can you please a little bit give me a context of this? How you do it? Do you try to look what was grateful in the day before, in the past, or how this go? How you reflect these stuffs?
So I do it a little bit of both, Nick. And here's the first thing I want to say. This is a very important practice to get into. Don't underrate it. Most people do. They underrate the value of doing this. This it's everybody's looking for that complicated thing that's going to make the big difference in my life. It's usually these simple little things that will make all the difference in your life. Now, this is how I do it. If somebody else is listening to this, they may want to do it a different way. You do it however works for you, but I challenge you just to do it. So for me, I like to open it up and I just start writing what I'm grateful for. And I start off by saying, I am so grateful that, and then I start writing. And I start thinking of all the good that's happening in my life. And I think of the stuff that has happened that I write in. I write what I'm grateful for that I'm doing today. And here's something that's maybe a little bit more unique. I write in there sometimes I'm grateful for what is coming into my life, the good that I desire, my goal, that crazy, outrageous thing. I start writing in there that I am so grateful that it is starting to show its way. It's starting to come into my life. So, yes, I write what I'm grateful that's happened, what is happening, and I write what I'm grateful for about what is going to happen so that I live from that place and feel, because feeling is really important, feel what it's like to already be there. And I write that out. That's a great, great thing to open up your mind to the good that you desire and where you want to go. And these things, you do it for yourself. You don't do it for anybody else to see. So it puts you in an energy to receive the good that you desire. This is an exercise for you, but it's one that opens things up in ways that, man, I promise you, will change your life.
This is one I'm going to practice from now on daily because I very much believe that one of the things is that if we just say, "Oh, I'm grateful for that," and actually completely another one is if we acknowledge that and give some energy towards this we are grateful for. You will be surrounded by success teaching your entire life, right? And even working with your father, growing up next to him, and so on. I want to ask you, what do you believe it's the number one key to lasting success?
The number one key to lasting success is to have a worthy goal that you're chasing and to step out and do something every day, no matter what's going on. That's it. That is really it. There's no secret sauce. We have to stay in action. We have to keep doing something towards it. Now, we're going to have bad days. We all do. Happen. But as long as you keep focused on it, you step out and something every day to get you one step closer. It can seem like an insignificant something, but that something is an action step. And that action step will make you feel better about the success that you're chasing, that you're going towards, that's maybe already in your life. That's really it. To keep lasting success is just to be doing something every day that's getting you closer to your goal. We have days that we maybe don't feel quite as successful. We have days that we maybe feel we're getting a little beat up. Here's the thing. When those days happen, Nick, are we focused on how we're being beat up? Or are we focused on, no, this is going to happen. I'm going to keep stepping out and doing something. If you can keep your focus on your dream, your pleasant obsession, and what can I do today to get me one step closer? And don't let the nonsense take my mind down that path. That's the key to lasting success. That's the key.
Thank you for sharing this. Basically means that we couldn't interrupt the momentum of our journey towards success. Even if something bad happened, we have to be present and to do the things, no matter how we feel at the moment. And that's very powerful. I want to ask you, what is the biggest mistake which people make trying to manifest their dreams? Is
Uh, the
this
biggest mis yeah, the biggest mistake is not doing anything. Just thinking about what they want, not stepping out and taking action. It's really that simple. That's the biggest mistake. I see too many people that come to me saying, I've been dreaming of this, dreaming that I've had people ask me, if I keep thinking I'm going to win the lottery, will I win the lottery? Is that good enough? Well, that's just crazy talk. It's what are you going to do to get you there? Dreaming of some windfall is not going to get you there. You have to picture what you want and you have to step out and take action. That's it. We just have to step out and take action every day. That's the key to everything.
That's powerful thing because most of the people are ready to give up on the first whisper on their ear. It's not for you.
Yes.
You're not going to make it. And I understand that it's probably easier to say than to do it. But is there something you would give as an advice to entrepreneurs who are trying to do it, even though they're having this whispering on their ears that they can't do it, that they're not for that, and some
You know,
roadblocks?
it's self-talk is so vital. And, persistence is really the key. As I said, I learned from my father not through what he said to me, but by watching what he did. And, as I said, he worked 40 years before he got in that movie, The Secret. It took 40 years before he was propelled to the stage, before he hit the success that he was always knowing was going to come his way. But he kept stepping out and doing things. That's really the key. So many of us will let something knock us down and knock us out. And that's a shame. That's a shame. We're all going to have things happen to us that we don't want. We're all going to have things throw us off our track. The key is, how do you stay focused on what you do want? And what can you do to, yes, acknowledge that this happened, but not let it dictate how you're going to behave from this point forward. That's the key. Where do you want to be? And just don't let the negative stuff take you down. I've often said, would you be friends with somebody that speaks to you the way you speak to yourself? I want to think about that.
Mm.
Would you be friends with somebody that speaks to you the way you speak to yourself? If you are not kind to yourself, that's the first thing you need to change. That's a very big mistake that a lot of people fall into. They berate themselves. Brian, why did you do that? Oh, you shouldn't have, you know, how do you speak to yourself? You want to be your biggest cheerleader. You want to be kind to yourself. Don't berate yourself. Speak kindly to yourself. Be your best friend. When you can start to speak good to yourself all the time, that is the first step to the mind change, the mindset that will put you in the right direction.
Yeah, very powerful. Uh, Most of the people now who are listening to us are probably starting to think about, wow, this thing might be working because those two people are speaking about that. And they really do. They really do. And I want to ask you, I have a couple of questions more here. One of them is, what is the best way to people honor Bob Proctor teachings and to continue his legacy in their own lives?
The best way to what? Sorry, it clicked out. To
The,
honor?
what is the best way to people honor Bob Proctor's teaching and continue his legacy in their own lives?
The best way that you can honor my father's teachings is to step out and bet on yourself. Do something. Do something. There's so many great YouTube videos of my father out there that you can just go to YouTube and watch. He's got some great books out there. There's lots of great material. Study what he was about. Watch some YouTube videos. I know the Born Rich seminar that he did. That's all out on YouTube. He did that back in the late 1980s, and they're still as valuable today as they were, gosh, 40 years ago. 40
Yeah.
years ago, hard to believe. They're still just as valuable today. You can honor him and his memory by stepping out and betting on yourself, learning more about yourself, learn how you tick, learn what will make you better. That's how we improve our situation in life. It doesn't matter where you're at. My father, when he first started, man, he was down and out. And he never let that dictate how he was going to show up in the world. He kept showing up as the best version of himself. If you can do that every day, that's the way to honor him. Be the best version of you every single day, no matter what is going on. You do that, your life will never be the same.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Uh, I know that before we even recorded this episode, you told me that at the moment you're not running any sort of coaching, but you would like to offer to people your own book. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that? What can people expect to find in there, and
Sure.
how can it impact on their lives?
Yeah, so you can just go to brianproctor.com. On that website, I have two books out right now. You'll be able to get those books whether on Amazon or wherever you are in the world. Um, and I do have a coaching program. I just closed it out. I only run it uh, probably twice a year, and I don't keep it open all the time. It opens and then I close it, and I work with the people through the whole way. I think that's an important way of doing it. So there is a wait list you can get on, but it won't be available again for at least 6 months. But in the meantime, yes, you can get the books there. I've got two books. The first one that I wrote a couple of years ago is My Father Knew the Secret, Growing Up with Bob Proctor. And that was a really great book to write. And that book is really my experience of growing up with Bob Proctor as a father, what he taught me and how I've used it. And you'll get practical steps on how to improve all kinds of areas in your life based on what he taught me. And you know, he's going to teach me the very best of what he knew because I was his son. So that's in that book. The next book is 12 Easy Steps to Change Your Life. And that's been I just released that in the fall, so just a few months ago, and it's been very well received. And that book gives you simple, really simple, step by step 12 easy things to do that can alter your life right here, right now. So both of those books, you'll find them on Amazon, of course, or go to my website, brianproctor.com. You'll find them there. You just click on either book and it'll take whatever country you're in, how to get the book.
Yeah, or all of you guys who are watching a video or listening to the audio, I will put in the description area as well those links. And Brian, I don't want to go very much longer than here because I don't want to make it as a coaching, even though that we can. I want to make it still as
Sure.
an interview. But I must ask you the question I ask every single person on this podcast. And this is that I call this season of my podcast Inside Out. I'm
Mhm.
looking for the answer. What is this? What must be inside of entrepreneur that once it's evoked and waken up, imitated outside will lead towards success? What is for you inside out?
Well, you know what, Nick? So here's the interesting thing. That is a question that is probably one of the best questions I've ever heard. And I love that this is what your podcast is about. So many of us, and I'll tell you exactly what I think it is, but so many of us let our current circumstance and our current surroundings dictate how our life is. And we just keep getting more of the same. And people think my life will change when this happens, when that happens, and they're looking for something outside of themselves. So here's my take on Inside Out. You want to change your life, you want to change the outer world, your outer results, you have to change the inside first. We change our outside world through our thinking. If we can alter the way we see things, the way we look at things, our perception of things, if we can live from the place that we want to be, don't let your circumstance and environment dictate how you think. How do I want my life to be? You start focusing on that. That's from the inside out. We get our results change when we change the way we think. You know, the old book by James Allen, As a Man Thinketh. The Bible talks about, as you think, so you shall be. That's probably not the way to say it, but it's something along that line. Everything teaches that what we think about, we bring about. It's not whatever is around us, that's what we have to settle for. No, no, that's just where we currently are. That is a result of the way we've been thinking. If we can change the inside, live from the place we want to be, picture where we want to be, and start acting as if we are that person and do the things from that way, that's when we're truly living from the inside out. And our outer world, the results will change. And they will change. They might not change, as I said earlier, this week or this month, but you live from here, live from the inside, knowing where you are going to be. And you step out no matter what's going on, no matter who tells you you can't, and you step out and just do one little thing every single day that gets you there where you're dreaming, that is when you change the outside world. So that is living from the inside out. You want to change your life? That's how you have to live. Don't let the outside dictate the way you think. You dictate the way you think and watch what happens to your outside world. So
That's
there
very
you go. There's my
powerful.
answer for you. Yeah.
That's very powerful one. Thank you so much. Brian, I want to thank you for sparing your time and being on this podcast with me today. And as well, it's a perfect to see you again on that background, which is very well known from a lot of YouTube videos of Bob. And thank you for sharing all this wisdom. It was really a pleasure speaking with you today. And I hope to all of you guys who are listening us on video and audio that we gave you some interesting things to start thinking about and probably some advices to start implementing. Brian, thank you so much.
Nick, I want to thank you. It's been great being here to do this with you, and I have to commend you. You had some wonderful, insightful questions. I've really enjoyed my time with you, and I hope everybody has enjoyed what we've talked about here today. So thank you for asking me to be here with you.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. And guys, if you made it till the end of this episode, you're not here just for noise. You're here for the truth. And the truth is that most of us inherit a script somewhere in the childhood, a way of living, a way of thinking, a way of being. But Brian, he's a living example that script isn't set in stone. You can edit it, you can question it, you can rewrite it, and maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what you're here to do. Because what we spoke about today wasn't just about legacy, it was a permission to slow down, to reflect, to lead a life that feels successful, not just that looks successful. So if something stirred in you during this episode, not to scroll, not to distract yourself, but to ask better question. What have I inherited that I'm finally ready to let go? If that question lands in you, hit subscribe button. Not because of me, because of you. So you don't lose a path you just picked up. And if Brian's story opens something in you, share this episode. Text it to your friend. Because sometimes all it takes is just one conversation to start living more intentionally. This is the Nick Graz Show, the place where we are trying to rewire our paradigm and to lead towards success. My name is Nick Graz, and I will see you in the next episode.